In The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings, our protagonists visit Rivendell, the home of Lord Elrond and his children, Arwen and the twins Elladan and Elrohir. Something never explained in detail, however, if you just read the main story, and not explained at all if you've only watched the movies, is what happened to Elrond's wife and the mother of Arwen? Where is she during our story, and what may have been Tolkien's literary reasons for her absence? Celebrían of Lothlórien was born as the daughter of Celeborn and Galadriel during the early centuries of the Second Age. She was her parents' only child, and she spent the majority of her early years in Eregion. With trouble brewing in the land as a result of Anatar's, or rather Sauron's influence, who conspired against them, Galadriel took her daughter, and the two women crossed the Misty Mountains through the realm of the dwarves, and settled in the land of Lorient. Celeborn, ever vigilant, but also unwilling to traverse Khazad-dûm due to his dislike of the dwarves, always remembering what they had done to his kin in Doriath, remained in Eregion to keep watch, and thus the family was split apart for many years. Following the deadly conflict with Sauron and the destruction of Celebrimbor and Eregion, Galadriel made her journey to find her beloved, and was accompanied by her daughter Celebrian. On their travels, they passed through Imladris, or Rivendell, where they finally found him and were reunited. While there, Celebrian met the Lord Elrond, who fell deeply in love with her, though he kept his feelings secret, perhaps because their time was still too evil, with Sauron reaching the peak of his power, and Elvenkind was known to avoid such turbulent times when it came to starting a family. Following Sauron's defeat, however, and the destruction of his empire with the end of the Second Age, the time was right, and Elrond finally made his feelings clear. Celebrian loved him back, and the two married in the year 109 of the Third Age, with Celebrian becoming the Lady of Imladris. The twins Elladan and Elrohir, Arwen's brothers, were born soon after the marriage, in the year 130, while Arwen herself in the year 241. It was from her mother Celebrian that Arwen inherited the precious Elfstone, or Elasar, from which Aragorn would take his royal name as king of the reunited realms. For centuries, life continued as normal in Rivendell. Their children grew and became formidable in their own right, though a shadow never stopped lurking in the background. Though Sauron and Morgoth were gone, their stench on the world would never go away, and the orcs still prowled the lands. In the year 2509 of the Third Age, Celebrian undertook a normal trip through the Misty Mountains to visit her parents on the other side of the mountain range in Lothlórien. While passing through the Redhorn Pass, she was ambushed by orcs and taken captive. The fair elven lady was tortured horribly, and her spirit tormented to its breaking point by her captors. Her wounds were terrible, and one of her many injuries included a deadly poison. She was eventually saved by her boys Elladan and Elrohir, and her body was soon healed by her beloved husband. But, although her physical wounds were healed, her mental pain would never go away. Celebrian was constantly haunted by what she had experienced, and the memories of her torture followed her everywhere she went, and regardless of what she did. The mental anguish became so severe that she could not stand to stay in Middle-earth any longer, desperately needing an escape from the darkness and from the memories of what had happened to her. Not even her family and husband could help her, and within only a year of her rescue, she decided to leave Middle-earth forever and sail west to the Undying Lands to hopefully find peace. Thus, her children were left without a mother and her husband without a wife, and this is why, by the Fellowship of the Ring in the year 3018, we encounter a Lord Elrond with no one at his side, as well as a Galadriel and Celeborn without a daughter, a state of affairs that had, by that point, lasted almost half a millennium. Although following the War of the Ring, Elrond and Galadriel finally sailed west and were presumably reunited with Celebrian, the fate of Arwen was death, and she never did. Celeborn chose to stay in Middle-earth a while longer, and was on the very last ship to ever leave Middle-earth, alongside Círdan the shipwright, and therefore must have also reunited, although belatedly. Elladan and Elrohir chose to stay too, but if they ever did leave and were ever reunited with her mother in the west, Tolkien never revealed, and as such, we will never know. The story of Celebrian itself I find to be beautiful. The world is dark and not particularly fair. Her family managed to save her and did everything in their power to heal her, and yet some things can never truly heal. For some, it may be disdainful that Celebrían essentially left her family during such a dark time, and you may even find it selfish and describe it as abandonment. Perhaps she should have toughed it up. She should have been stronger and been able to overcome her difficulties and been there to support her family. Yet she could not. She decided that she either had to abandon everything she loved or something even worse than that would happen. She recognized that her mental state was deteriorating to such a point that nothing could help her overcome her unrelenting anguish, that she had no other choice but to leave, even though it must have hurt so much. According to Tolkien, elven marriages are the unions of soulmates, and their ultimate and most cherished part are children. This is sacred to them, and their families are perhaps the most important aspects of their lives. Nonetheless, Celebrían was in such pain that she thought that there was no other way for her to survive but to leave that which mattered most. Naturally, the point is not to identify Celebrían with a specific trait or to pass judgment whether good or bad, but simply to appreciate the story for what it is and come to your own reflective conclusions. On a literary level, or at least when it comes to the plot itself, I think another reason why Tolkien must have removed Celebrían from the book, other than the touching backstory that is a good enough reason by itself, may have been to further emphasize the importance of his other female characters. As we all know, Tolkien was very selective when it came to his female characters, and their role in the plot was very closely connected to the ancient myths and stories of the Middle Ages. His elven ladies in the Silmarillion are a notable example of this, but most especially in The Lord of the Rings itself, in which that role is given to Galadriel and Arwen. They are ethereal and may even be described as holy, and their role within the plot is such that they drive our characters forward, something characterizing Galadriel especially. Therefore, to have yet another fair and bright senior elven lady and have another Celeborn-Galadriel dynamic in Rivendell too may have been unnecessary for the already dense story that Tolkien wanted to tell, and simply chose to remove her altogether. A massive thank you to my channel members, and thank you very much for watching.